Chapter 2. The Establishment of Company Powers. Being a very powerful Mughal emperor, Aurangzeb established good control over a vast part of the territory which we know today as India. After his death in 1701, no Mughal emperor could prove to be so powerful. Taking advantage of their weakness, most of their gunners and powerful zamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. As powerful regional kingdoms emerged in various parts of India, even Delhi could no longer remain an effective center of administration. However, India had commercial contacts with European countries from time immemorial, but with the arrival of Alexander the Great, these relations became still more intimate. There was a great demand for Indian goods like silk, spices, muslin, and handloom fabrics in Europe. India exported pepper, cloves, chilies, cinnamon, ginger, coconut, sugarcane, indigo, etc. to Western countries. All these factors attracted European invaders to come to India. East India Company, beginning of British conquest in India. European trading companies in India. Portugal was the European country to start trading with India. Holland, England, France and Denmark joined the race for trade with India. The trading companies of Europe bought goods from India at cheap rates and sold them in the European markets at very high prices. Saltpeter was bought, as it was needed in the manufacture of gunpowder. Indigo was needed for dyeing clothes. Cotton textiles prepared on Indian handlooms were very popular in European high societies. The British were able to oust the French, the Dutch, the Spaniards and the Portuguese in course of time. One by one, the British East India Company annexed the Indian princely states and ultimately become masters in the country where they had once come to seek permission to trade. For 200 years, the British ruled over the territories that non-comprise India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka. The Dutch in India. The Dutch established trading centers at Surat, Bharuch, Mumbai and Ahmedabad in Gujarat, Cochin in Kerala, Nagpattinam in Madras, Musulipatnam in Andhra, Chinsura in Bengal, Patna in Bihar and Agra in Uttar Pradesh. They exported indigo, silk, cotton textiles, saltpeter and opium from India. The Dutch power in India was, however, completely wiped out by the Britishers in the 18th century. The main interests of the Dutch shrank to the East Indies, which had become independent only very recently. The French in India. The French Trading Company was formed in 1664. It established its headquarters at Pondicherry. The company had factories at Mahé, Chandernagore, Yanam, Karaikal and other places. Unlike the English East India Company, the French company was largely controlled by the French government and heavily dependent on it for financial and military support. East India Company comes east in 1600. The East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth I, granting it the sole right to trade with the East. This meant that no other trading group in England could compete with the East India Company. With this charter, the company could venture across the oceans, looking for new lands from which it could buy goods at a cheap price and carry them back to Europe to sell at higher prices. The company did not have to fear competition from other English trading companies. Mercantile trading companies in those days made profit primarily by excluding competition, so that they could buy cheap and sell higher. The Royal Charter, however, could not prevent other European powers from entering the eastern markets. By the time the first English ships sailed down the west coast of Africa, round the Cape of Good Hope, and crossed the Indian Ocean, the Portuguese had already established their base in Goa. In fact, it was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, who had discovered this sea route to India in 1498. By the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities of trade in the Indian Ocean. Soon the French trade arrived on the scene. The problem was that all the companies were interested in buying the same things. The fine qualities of cotton and silk produced in India had a big market in Europe. Pepper, cloves, cardamom and cinnamon too were in great demand. Competition amongst the European companies inevitably pushed up the prices at which these goods could be purchased, and this reduced the profits that could be earned. The only way the trading companies could flourish was by eliminating rival competitors. The urge to secure markets therefore led to fierce battles between the trading companies. Through the 17th and 18th centuries, they regularly sunk each other's ships, blockaded routes, and prevented rival ships from moving with supplies of goods. Trade was carried on with arms and trading posts were protected through fortification. This effort to fortify settlements and carry on profitable trade also led to intense conflict with local rulers. The company therefore found it difficult to separate trade from politics. Let us see how this happened. Changing nature of functions and flag of the East India Company. The British East India Company, sometimes referred to as John Company, was a joint stock company which was granted an English royal charter by Queen Elizabeth I on 31 December 1600 to trade in India. The company in due course of time transferred itself from trading to ruling India as it acquired military functions. Its rule came to an end in 1858 when India came under the direct rule of British Crown. Its flag also underwent changes. The company's flag initially had flag of England, the St. George's Cross in the corner. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. The first English factory was set upon the banks of the river Hooghly in 1651. This was the base from which the company's traders, known at that time as factors, operated. The factory had a warehouse where goods for export were stored, and it had offices where company officials sat. As trade expanded, the company persuaded merchants and traders to come and settle near the factory. By 1696 it began building a fort around the settlement. 2 years later it bribed Mughal officials into giving the company Zmindari rights over 3 villages. One of these was Calicut, which later grew into the city of Calcutta or Kolkata as it is known today. It also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a firman granting the company the right to trade duty-free. The Battle of Plassey. With the capture of Calcutta, the British company decided to remove Siraj-ud-Daulah from the throne. It entered into a conspiracy with the leading men of the Nawab's court. Chief among them were Mir Zafar, one of the important generals in the Nawab's court, Jagat Seth, biggest banker of Bengal, and Khadim Khan, a commander of troops. Mir Zafar was promised the throne of Bengal. The forces of the Nawab and the British East India Company fought on the field of Plassey on 23 June 1757. The battle was only his name. A major part of the Nawab's army did not fight because of the conspiracy of Mir Zafar. The British army of 3,000 soldiers was thus able to defeat the Nawab, whose army had a strength of 50,000 soldiers. Mir Zafar was made the Nawab of Bengal. The British company was given rights to trade freely in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. The company also received the Zmindari of the 24 Pargana near Calcutta. Mir Zafar paid a huge sum as compensation to the company for attack on Calcutta. In addition, he paid a huge sum by way of gifts and even bribes to the high officials of the company for attack on Calcutta. Lord Clive himself received about 20 lakh rupees. The Battle of Plassey is of great significance in the history of India. It boosted the prestige and morale of the British in India. The rich revenues of Bengal enabled them to organize a strong army. It laid the foundation of British rule in India. Anglo-French rivalry in India. The presence of 2 traditional rivals and a clash of trade interests between the two led to a series of wars. These wars were known as the Carnatic Wars, which lasted for nearly 20 years and led to the establishment of British power in India. The war, known as the Austrian War of Succession, broke out in Europe in 1746. The British and the French joined the war on opposite sides. The British were on the side of Russia and the French were with Austria. This was spread to India as well. From the very beginning, the French had the upper hand. The British threatened Pondicherry, a settlement of French, but failed to capture it. The French retailed and occupied Madras. The British appealed for help to the Nawab of Carnatic, in whose territory Madras was then situated. The Nawab sent an army of 10,000 soldiers to drive away the French. The French, under the leadership of Dupleix, defeated the army of the Nawab with a small force of 230 Europeans and 700 Indian soldiers. The war exposed weakness of the Indian army. In 1748, the Austrian War came to an end. British and France made peace in Europe. Madras was restored to the British in India. Second Carnatic War, 1748 to 1754. The second war between the two rivals was fought over the issue of succession to the thrones of Hyderabad and Carnatic. The two foreigners were supporting rival candidates. In Hyderabad, the French were supporting Muzaffar Jung while the British supported Nasir Jung. Similarly, the Carnatic, the French supported Chanda Sahib while the British forwarded the claims of Muhammad Ali. In the war that followed, the French forces were defeated by the British armies. A peace treaty was signed and Dupleix was recalled to France. The Third Carnatic War, 1756 to 1763. The peace between the two companies was short-lived. The 7 Years' War broke out in Europe in 1757. The French and the British again took opposite sides. In India, this led to the final phase of the Carnatic Wars. In the very beginning, the British managed to gain control in Bengal. This adversely affected the position of the French in the Third Carnatic War. The French government made a determined attempt this time to oust the British. A strong force, headed by Cote de Lally, was sent. Lally captured Ercourt and a big attack on Madras was organized by the French. The British troops under Major Lawrence in 1760. In 1761, the British captured Pondicherry. The French lost all their possessions in India. The 7 Years' War in Europe came to an end in 1763 with the signing to the Treaty of Paris. Pondicherry in the south and Chandranagar in Bengal were restored to the French. However, the French were not permitted to fortify these places in India. British gained complete control in South India. These after they set out in their task of gaining control over other territories. Mysore and Marathas. The kingdom of Mysore and the Marathas were the main rivals of the British. Mysore was ruled by Hyder Ali and later by Tipu Sultan. During Warren Hastings' Ghana generalship, Mysore and the British clashed twice. None of them, however, gained through these two Anglo-Mysore wars. From 1775 to 1782, the British and the Marathas were engaged in the First Anglo-Maratha War. The war was fought over the issue of succession to the throne of the Peshwa. The two claimants were Madhav Rao II and Raghunath Rao. Madhav Rao II was backed by the Maratha chiefs and the chief minister of Madhav Rao II, Nana Fadnavis. The British supported the claims of Raghunath Rao. The war did not result in victory for either side. But for the next 20 years, there was peace between the two powers. War with the Marathas. From the late 18th century, the company also sought to curb and eventually destroy Maratha power. With their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Marathas' dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. They were divided into many states under different chiefs belonging to dynasties such as Sindhia, Solpur, Gakwar and Bhonsle. These chiefs were held together in a confederacy under a Peshwa who became its effective military and administrative head based in Pune. Mahatji Sindhya and Nana Fadnis were two famous Maratha soldiers and statesmen of the late 18th century. The Marathas were subdued in a series of wars. In the first war that ended in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai, there was no clear victor. The Second Anglo-Maratha War was fought on different fronts, resulting in the British gaining Orissa and the territories north of the Yamuna River including Agra and Delhi. Finally, the Third Anglo-Maratha War of 18,17,019 crushed Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to Bithur near Kanpur with a pension. The company now had complete control over the territories south of the Vindhyas. Punjab, the only major Indian state that was still independent, was Punjab. It was ruled by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He had built up a strong army, equipped and trained like the European forces. He was on friendly terms with the British. After his death in 1839, Punjab witnessed political instability. Dalip Singh, son of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, succeeded to the throne. This real power, however, soon fell into the hands of the Khalsa. In 1845, the First Anglo-Sikh War was fought, which ended in a defeat of the Khalsa. The hardy Sikhs, however, refused to concede defeat. They regrouped and fought. The war sealed the fate of Punjab. The armies of Punjab were defeated. In 1849, Punjab was annexed to the British Empire. The Rajputana states also accepted the British supremacy. The doctrine of lapse. The final wave of annexations occurred under Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor-General from 1848 to 1856. He devised a policy that came to be known as the doctrine of lapse. The doctrine declared that if an Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become part of company territory. One kingdom after another was annexed simply by applying this doctrine: Satara, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur and Jhansi. Finally, in 1856, the company also took over Awadh. This time the British had an added argument. They said they were obliged by duty to take over Awadh in order to free the people from the misgovernment of the Nawab. Enraged by the humiliating way in which the Nawab was deposed, the people of Awadh joined great revolt that broke out in 1857. By the middle of the 19th century, the British had firmly established their position in India. A large part of country was under direct British rule. The regions that remained independent were indirectly under the British influence. India was a result of her political subjugation. The Company Army. Colonial rule in India brought in some new ideas of administration and reform, but its power rested in its military strength. The Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry and infantry, that is, Paidal, foot, soldiers. They were given training in archery and the use of the sword. The cavalry dominated the army. Had the Mughal state did feel the need to have a large professionally trained infantry. The rural areas had a large number of armed peasants, and the local zamindars often supplied the Mughals with Paidal soldiers. A change occurred in the 18th century when Mughal successor states like Awadh and Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as professional soldiers. They eased recruitment for its own army, which came to be known as the Sepoy Army. In the early 19th century, the British began to develop a uniform military culture. Soldiers were increasingly subjected to European-style training, drill and discipline that regulated before. Often this created problems since caste and community feelings were ignored in building a force of professional soldiers. Could individuals so easily give up their caste and religious feelings? Could they see themselves only as soldiers and not as members of communities? their life for more than conclusion. Thus, the East India Company was transferred from a trading company to a territorial colonial power. The arrival of new steam technology in the early 19th century also aided this process. Till then, it would take anywhere between 6 and 8 months to travel to India by sea. Steamships reduced the journey time to 3 weeks, enabling more Britishers and their families to come to a far-off country like India. By 1857, the company came to exercise direct rule over about 63% of the territory and 78% of the Indian subcontinent. Combined with its indirect influence on the remaining territory and population of the country, the East Company India had virtually whole of India under its control.